Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint recap. Today is now Friday, November 22nd, coming off of a Thursday where there were only 4 games, but my goodness, Joey, they were some spicy ones. I'm Miles
Those
here
were
with
some
Joey. Joey, how are you doing?
feeling good, feeling great, and out of breath after watching the end of that Lakers Magic game.
Oh, my goodness. It,
Wow.
it was unbelievable. We'll get right into that one first of all. But as I always say, check the description down below. We'll have the timestamps of all the games if you want to skip ahead. But I don't know why you would want to skip ahead of this Magic Lakers game because this was incredible. The final score of this one, Orlando gave the Lakers their first home loss of the season, getting the victory 119-118 thanks to Franz Wagner coming up clutch in the fourth quarter, hitting a game-winning step-back three with just a few seconds remaining. And my goodness, Joey, I don't even know where we start with this one. Well, I guess we should talk the first half. It was a very high-scoring first half, and that's why the Magic were losing, because we know them to be a great defensive team. But the Lakers were absolutely having their way in the first half.
Oh, 100%. The Lakers, even into the third quarter and most of that fourth, it looked like the Lakers offense just could not be stopped. But the Magic just kept hanging around in there, muddying up the game a little bit. Their defense was still great, but they got into foul trouble quickly too.
Yeah, absolutely. The Magic did have some foul trouble there down the stretch. I mean, they gave up 67 first half points to the Lakers before in the third quarter there having a run. We see it from the Magic in every game, especially without Paolo, where they just go on these 7-8 minute stretches where the other team is just not going to score. They're just not going to get many good looks. And that's how the Magic got back into this game, had the lead going into the fourth quarter. And then in that fourth quarter, LeBron started to take over, hit 3 threes in a row and a monster slam dunk to give the Lakers the momentum back. I mean, he and Anthony Davis combined for 70 points in this game. I mean, both of them were spectacular.
They looked unstoppable. Like honestly, if you're going to get that kind of night out of those two guys, you need I'll say a little bit of extra help from the other guys, D'Angelo Russell, but dude, those guys played fantastic. If we want to talk about, there's gonna be a lot of people talking about who to blame that loss on, but you really can't blame it on AD and LeBron, even though they missed the free throws. Like if you pull up when the box score, it said Anthony Davis 10 for 13 from the free throw line. Man was 9 for 9 going into his last 2 trips to the free throw line, and then missed 3 out of 4. And kept it a 2-point game, and Franz came down the court. Like, I don't know. It was just nuts. Like, I honestly don't know what else to say. I was getting so frustrated, as were like even the Lakers announcers were calling it out, saying, "Man, here we go again. Just give it to Franz. Let him go to work." I was getting frustrated, but this is why I'm not a coach. This is why I don't get paid the big money, because clearly it worked out.
Yeah, that was really Orlando's only offense in that fourth quarter. It got bogged down a bit. And it was basically just give Franz the ball and let him go make a play, whether it's for himself or for his teammates. But going back to LeBron and Anthony Davis, I should have corrected myself. I think the only thing that was stopping LeBron and AD in this game was the free throw line.
Literally just the free throw line.
Because, I mean, look, I mean, I'm sure both of us thought, like, the Lakers had this one down the stretch after Anthony Davis got a dunk with like a minute to go to give the Lakers a 3-point lead. Then Jalen Suggs got fouled, only made one of the 2 free throws. So the Lakers had it back a 2-point lead with like 40 seconds to go. Then LeBron drove baseline and drew a foul. And I was like, oh my gosh. All right, this is just one of those games the Lakers are just going to pull out here. Then LeBron splits a pair. So, but yeah, he splits a pair of free throws. Then the Magic, because they called a challenge on the LeBron foul, didn't have any timeouts. So they come down the floor, plenty of time on the clock, and Franz Wagner settles for a step back 3. And we're like, what are you doing? This is way too early in the shot clock. But the Lakers just kept splitting free throws, and Yeah, Anthony Davis misses 2 with 19 seconds to go. They come down. Franz Wagner isolated against Cam Reddish and just made an incredible shot. A step back 3 from near that big old LA logo.
Yeah, that was absolutely just a nuts ending. I, again, hated both those shots by Franz, but he made the one that counted. So, like, and here we are. I was asking you right before we started recording this. The Magic are 7-5 now without Paolo Banchero. And Paolo said he might be ready by Christmas because he is progressing faster in his rehab than expected. If they can hover around 500, this is now their 10th win. They're 10-7 now. This is a team to be trifled with.
And the wins just continue to be, so impressive. After losing their first 4 games without Paolo, they go on that 6-game winning streak. Then they lose to the Clippers just a night ago on Wednesday night. Then they play the Lakers in this one. Looked like they were going to fall in this one at the end, but come out with the victory. And these are the type of wins that you need to get if you're in the Magic's shoes here without your best player. And now their next few games are looking like at home against Detroit, at Charlotte, home against Chicago, and then back-to-back on the road in Brooklyn. One of those is an NBA Cup game. And then after a few more games on the East, they have a 7-game homestand. 7-game homestand where the Magic have not lost a game yet. Now beating the Lakers, the Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers are the only undefeated teams at home. So they have a great home court advantage. Getting these road wins are huge, especially in LA where they hadn't lost.
Yeah, that I was about to say that was the first home loss for the Lakers too. That crowd was wild too. That crowd was loud, I will say. As much as I want to hate on the Lakers and their fans and stuff, I don't like the court, but y'all brought it tonight too. So what a good atmosphere. What a great just defense kind of game, because even AD down the stretch was playing fantastic defense. Had a couple blocks at the end too. Man, that was just such a good game.
An incredible game. I will ask the question to you about the Lakers, though, because, we were just saying it didn't seem like the Magic were going to hold on for this victory near the end. Lakers were in control and obviously missed some free throws at the end there. Do you think this is the old classic Russell Westbrook meme post-game question? Do you think the Magic won this game or did the Lakers lose it?
Oh, come on. That's not even a question. The Lakers lost this game. They obviously, we knew what, like you said, the Magic every single time out of halftime, they always hold them to like a 7-8 minute stretch where they just don't score. So you knew that was coming. They were going to be back in the game. But especially down late when LeBron hit 3 threes in a row, including one from the logo. Anthony Davis could not be stopped. LeBron was pocket passing him, and Anthony Davis was just having his way in the paint. And then all of a sudden, you miss free throws. D'Lo chucks up a couple shots that were kind of open, but he's just been so bad that you just can't shoot that. But even that last play, we talked about it. We're like, oh, here we go. We're trying to plan out what is JJ screen for Anthony Davis. LeBron's going to set a screen. I'm like, okay, that's what they did. But they had him run to like the perimeter. I'm like, no, you need him to get towards the basket. He's been unstoppable, especially in the fourth quarter, just down in the paint. Goga can't do anything.
Yeah, running that play, especially against the Orlando Magic when the defenders on LeBron and Anthony Davis were John Isaac and Goga Bitadze, who's been pretty solid, who's been solid starting at the 5 and did a decent job this game. Got a ton of boards, and was solid defensively. That's just, I did not like the quality look that they got there at the end. Anthony Davis missed it all there at the end, but yeah, man. Looking at the numbers of this game, numbers were pretty similar across the board. Big glaring differences were offensive rebounding, which was something which was noticeable. This Orlando had 15 offensive rebounds to just 9 for the Lakers. Also got to give a ton of credit to a couple role players for Orlando. The rookie Tristan Da Silva in the starting lineup made some big plays. Did have a couple welcome to the league moments when he got blocked by LeBron and gave up an and one, but hit a couple big threes over him and has looked very solid in that starting lineup. And then off the bench, Mo Wagner can't give you a whole lot of minutes to close games because they just have better options defensively. But he came in the game in 18 and a half minutes, had 19 points, 5 rebounds, 4 of them on the offensive glass, and 4 assists. He's really good at his role. He's really good in his role.
Me and you were amazed at watching him and Franz go to work. It was like we were watching Germany again. No wonder they're like they've been playing together for 20 plus years, ever since they were kids. Specifically, that one play where they ran that a screen for Mo Wagner, or Mo Wagner ran the screen, set the screen. Franz he rolls, and as Franz just tosses it up there. But as Mo is turning, catches it right away on the turn, and then in one fluid motion, just puts up the hook and drains it. It's like the chemistry is unmatched. It was beautiful to watch.
Absolutely. And now moving forward for the Lakers, their next few games, these next 2 will be ones to watch for sure. On Saturday night, they get their first look at the Denver Nuggets this season, and the Nuggets have had the Lakers number a lot over the last few years. But Nuggets have been looking a little more vulnerable this season, and the Lakers have been looking better this season than years past. We'll see how that goes. And then on Tuesday, an NBA Cup game against the Phoenix Suns, who luckily enough for them, they have had their injuries of their own. But after Wednesday night's loss to New York, they don't play again until that Tuesday night game. They get a full 5-6 days of rest going into that NBA Cup game. So that could definitely be major.
Much needed for that Phoenix Suns team.
Oh, no question about it, for sure. But either way, just great win for the Magic. You gotta steal these wins when you can, and that was definitely what that was.
Brutal loss for the Lakers, though. That we were saying that's a great win for the Magic to get one on the road. But brutal loss. Even though it is your only first loss at home, you had to lose eventually at home. That's a game you should have won.
Specifically with the Nuggets and the Suns coming up.
Especially with a couple more tough games coming up. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Moving over to the Eastern Conference, man, we had a couple more thrillers between the Detroit Pistons and the Charlotte Hornets, with the Hornets getting a 123-121 overtime victory. The Hornets seem to have the Pistons number in the clutch. But for the Hornets, it was their 2 young stars, LaMelo Ball with 35, 6, and 9. But he had eventually fouled out by the end of regulation. So Brandon Miller, who has had a tough start to the season, went off for a career-high 38 points, hit 8 of 12 from the three-point line in this one, and hit some huge shots down the stretch for the Hornets.
For sure. I saw that because we were watching it, right? We were watching it together. Brandon Miller in overtime, because it did eventually go to overtime. This was a fun game to watch, but Brandon Miller in overtime shot 3 for 5, including 2 for 2 from 3 in overtime. Man was clutch and much needed. He needs a huge confidence boost. There's always a sophomore slump, but getting those games, just string a couple of them together, it's going to be huge. And especially with LaMelo not even playing in overtime. He knew he was the guy, and he brought it.
Yeah, he made a huge shot at the end of regulation that tied the game. But got to give credit to the Pistons, because the Hornets came out on fire. They had a 20-point lead in the second quarter, double digits most of the second half, and midway through the fourth quarter, we were on here, the pre-pod lobby, before we started the podcast. It was a double-digit lead. I left for a little bit to go do something. I come back, and I see it's tied with 40 seconds to go. But that's just because the Pistons started to lock up the Hornets. When looking at the quarter-by-quarter score here, they even showed it during the game, that the Hornets' point total, quarter-by-quarter, was 33 in the first, 30 in the second, 30 in the third, then 16 in the fourth. They clamped down in the fourth quarter when it mattered the most, and Pistons just were able to make a run there. They outscored them 30-16. Big shots for Tobias Harris. His shot has started to fall over the last few games. He had the best game of his season so far, had 26 points and 8 rebounds, hit 6 for 9 from 3. But in overtime, it really was Brandon Miller that went crazy. But even then, it was still close after Brandon Miller hit a dagger 3. It was like a 6-point game with 30 seconds to go. Then Jaden Ivey, who was having a garbage game, started to go crazy from the field and nearly got the Pistons back in it.
I still don't know how that one was called not out of bounds.
Out of bounds.
There was a corner three. clearly it looked like his 1 foot was out of bounds. Either way, heck of a shot by Jaden Ivey. That was a wild shot, but that was
so
a
he does
fun
that.
game.
He does that. He makes a corner three to make it a 3-point game. Then the Pistons, a little questionable. It was a 3-point game. It was like a 5-second differential, but the Pistons decided to foul with like 17 seconds left. Josh Green for the Hornets goes to the free throw line, splits the free throws. Then they just give the ball to Jaden Ivey again. He drives down and makes a one-legged floating shot. Still don't know how he made that one either. Then the Hornets get the ball to Grant Williams, who's fouled, goes to the line. He splits a couple free throws. Hornets are back up 3 with like 8 seconds to go. Get the ball to Jaden Ivey again, and the Hornets foul him to not allow him to get up a 3-point shot. Ivey goes to the line, makes the first free throw, intentionally misses the second free throw perfectly. It was a perfect miss.
Just chucked it right off the front of the rim. It went straight up, and they tipped it out. They almost did it. Unfortunately, Tobias Harris, who, again, had a great game, finally happy he had his best game for Detroit. He couldn't handle the ball, and then the clock went out. But,
yeah, it was a tough
man,
game.
that was a perfect missed free throw.
Oh, it was incredible. The ball was tipped to Harris, and it says in the box score that Brandon Miller got credited with a block on that final play. And then Taj Gibson, man, the vet Taj Gibson got the final rebound. I mean, him getting the game-clinching rebound in 2024.
We were all laughing as soon as he came in. We're like, oh, here he comes. Here comes Taj Gibson.
Yeah, man. He's actually had to play some big minutes for the Hornets
Diabate played a lot today, too. I remember seeing the stat that I don't know what his stats ended, but I remember at one point it was like he had 1 point, but like 14 rebounds.
Yeah, it was something crazy like that. I mean, he has definitely been doing his thing there. For him being the starting center, it's definitely impacted them defensively solidly as well. But just a fun game between those two young teams there. And we got to see, I mean, Cade versus LaMelo, two of the young, great up-and-coming, point guards in the league. So definitely a lot of fun between those two.
100%. This is two teams that are on the right path, I would say, and have a lot of young talent. So these two teams, at least in the next couple of years, and these 2 point guards, like you said, it's going to be fun to watch.
You never know with how the Eastern Conference is kind of looking. This could be like a play-in preview.
It could be this year.
Hey, this game obviously came down to like the final shot. The Pistons played the Hornets earlier in Charlotte. Brandon Miller had a game-winning tip-in at the buzzer. So we've gotten 2 great close games between these two teams. So that would certainly be fun in the future. Next game, the Minnesota Timberwolves drop another one. This one in Toronto against the Raptors, 110-105. Although the Raptors wearing their beautiful city jerseys on that lovely dinosaur court. Oh, that was awesome.
That's the reason they won, at least in my opinion, is because they had the court, they had the jerseys. The Raptor was wearing the number 15. But those jerseys are so good. Those are my favorite jerseys, my favorite court. I don't know.
Yeah.
They just get it.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely one of the better looks in history. But
for sure.
Yeah, but getting to the game here, I mean, the Raptors really it was kind of back and forth there in the fourth quarter. But late in the fourth quarter, the Raptors just started making plays. Man, RJ Barrett with drives to the basket, Jakob Poeltl with offensive rebounds, Chris Boucher off the bench with 22. I mean, it was just a good team with victory for the Raptors.
Man, now Chris Boucher, that's a player everybody would want on their fantasy basketball team. It would be a shame if anybody ever dropped him. I did. But yeah, no, he played fantastic for him. Scotty Barnes finally returned.
Back.
His eye looked messed up because he was wearing goggles.
Red goggles.
They showed him at the free throw line, and his right eye was like bloodshot red. Clearly something. I forget what exactly happened, but it was still clearly affected. But one thing I do want to say, did you end up seeing what happened with Rudy Gobert and Ant Edwards?
I did see that. We do have to talk about that. We kind of watched the play develop live, but on social media kind of developed afterwards. Anthony Edwards was at the top of the key kind of in isolation. Or was it Julius Randle?
Julius Randle.
It was Julius Randle who had the ball. He was just literally dribbling out the whole possession while Rudy Gobert was kind of sealed down low. I'm not sure who he had on him.
He was 2 inches from the basket. So
yeah,
either way, he was in great position.
Yeah, he was sealed right at the rim, but Randle just kept dribbling, and by the time he drove it, Rudy stayed in the paint because he was like, man, I want the basketball right now. I'm sealed. I have great position. Then a 3-second violation was called. And then Anthony Edwards just got into it with Rudy Gobert.
He was laying into him. And to be fair, like, I get it from Gobert's perspective because Juju should have made that pass because that was going to be the easiest dunk or layup of his life. But Edwards, that's what you got to do. You are the leader of that team. Especially if you look at it, because you couldn't really get a good look at it during the game, but obviously in social media when they pointed out, Gobert's sitting there calling for it, never got it. And then as soon he puts his arms down, and then he just walks away super slowly. Like, it's not even like he's hustling out, just pissed off and clearly affecting it and letting it get in his head. That's what I know Ant had a problem with. Ant probably understood, definitely understood. Ant's a smart guy. He knows, hey, you got position. You should have got the ball. But just because you're mad at that, you can't just force a turnover because you're mad. This is a game you need to win. The Raptors, they've been competitive all year. We love watching them play. However, they're a bad team. You were a 2 seed, or you were a 2 seed, 1 seed, 2 seed last year?
3 seed last year, but a conference finals.
I was going to say, conference. Either way, you can't lose that kind of game, especially in committing a turnover like that in the fourth quarter, late in the game, in a close game. I understand why Ant's pissed.
And that goes in the books as another just frustrating loss, man. For the Timberwolves, they've now lost to the Raptors, the Blazers twice in back-to-back games, lost to Miami at the last second because of miscommunication on the defensive end, lost to the Spurs, Mavericks, and Lakers in the first game of the season. So it's been a very confusing season so far, and something that kind of stands out to me when looking at their lineup that they played, at least in this game. Mike Conley missed this game. He was out with injury, so they started Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but they were only missing one player, and they essentially played a 7.5-man rotation in this game. Only players that played off the bench were DiVincenzo and Reed. Reed has been great this season. DiVincenzo, not so much. Then they played less than 10 minutes for the rookie Rob Dillingham, who so far, I think we're all fans of Rob Dillingham and what he could be in the future, but so far in his rotation minutes that he's gotten in the league, he is not showed to be like a good – he does not look ready for the NBA level just yet. And yes, it is very difficult. He's playing limited minutes. Like, you don't know when you're going to come in. You don't know how long you're going to play. You're trying to fit in to a system when you're accustomed in college and your whole life to having the ball in your hands and scoring. But he's just been bad. Like, this game, he was a -14 in the 9 minutes. He's had a game where he was -13 in 9 minutes in one of the losses to Portland. And it just shows, like, man, Timberwolves were only missing one player, and they had to play that thin of a rotation. It kind of reminds me of a team they made a trade with in the offseason, the New York Knicks, that this early in the season, they're just over 500, and you're having to play these shallow rotations.
This is kind of why I've been saying that, like, it's kind of been a lose-lose trade. Like, I know, like, both those players can be good fits for both teams. Like, I'm not saying it's just a bad trade, but with where both of these teams were last year, where if you look at the Knicks, it was injuries, and that's really what you can point to if you really want to, but you have a really good team. And making the trade for Mikal Bridges, like, you just have such a good team. Same with Minnesota. You were just fantastic last year, blew everyone out of the water with the expectations. And then you switch it all up, just try to get that extra push. They weren't that far off from being NBA Finals bound, either of those teams, and you just completely shake up the chemistry. And again, we're 15 games into the season, but it's not the ideal start, and there are definite concerns for the future if you're starting this rough, running this thin of a rotation, because that's going to play a big part when we're 5 months later and going into the playoffs.
Yeah, because they've also, through the first now 15 games of the season, they've had really good injury luck so far. Like, this was only Mike Conley's second missed game of the season. All the other starters have played in every single game. They've had their regular starting five in basically every single game. And you're 8-7. That's a little concerning.
Every other team, we talked about it on the podcast, and we could talk about it probably for the next month, I'm assuming. Injuries have been destroying a lot of teams this early in the season and this league. Like, a lot of stars, a lot of role players, just everybody's been getting injured throughout the league so far. And your team has not. You can't just keep pushing luck, because eventually it's going to hit you. It hits everybody eventually. It just depends when.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the Western Conference, like, the Timberwolves have probably had the best injury luck so far, besides like the Lakers and probably Houston. Mm-hmm. Besides them, like Minnesota, I mean, how much? I mean, a team that made the conference finals last year, having their starting five in the first 15 games, not expecting an 8-7 record through those games. We could talk brief. I mean, you mentioned the trade between those two teams. I think both teams were in a little bit of a tough spot. It made sense for both teams to make the trade. It's not getting off to a great start, specifically for the Wolves so far to start. I mean, Minnesota.
The Knicks are obviously much better. Like, just the other day, both the two top guys had 30 and 10 games. So I'm not going to say anything too bad about them yet, because they're proving me wrong still. But the Wolves, for example, for sure. And with what you were saying about Rob Dillon, I meant to say it before. I just lost my train of thought, but it is just an unfortunate situation for him, because he doesn't look NBA ready and he's in limited minutes, but you're also not in a great situation where you can kind of earn minutes, because the Timberwolves don't have, especially with this kind of start, they don't have as much time anymore unless the injury bug really picks up, where he can get those minutes. Like, there's just not many opportunities. Like, you have to win a lot of games now,
especially when your team's getting outscored by 14 points in the 9 minutes you're on the floor. It's not going to help your case whatsoever. So just an inconsistent start for Minnesota, but Toronto, good win there. I mean, they have their core guys back, and I will say, I mean, when you have this type of starting five, Emmanuel quickly missed this game, so they slotted Scotty Barnes as basically their point guard, and they're just so big when your starting five is Scotty Barnes, Grady Dick, RJ Barrett, Ochai Agbaji, Jakob Poeltl. Like, if your smallest guy is Ochai Agbaji, it's pretty good. And we've all known the Raptors to be known as a scrappy team. They kind of showed it in this game, not so much this season, but with those core guys, they have so much size that, maybe not this year, but they definitely have a bright future, though. That's for sure.
I was about to say, I really like that court. The chemistry between Grady Dick and RJ Barrett is already pretty apparent, and they just need to keep improving and playing together. And Scotty, we know how Scotty is. He just got back from injury. So, like, I know we want them to be bad, and a couple of them are going to be used for trade bait, obviously, but like probably Jakob Poeltl, I'm assuming. Maybe, I don't know Chris Boucher's contract situation, but like if he keeps playing like that, there are definite teams that would want him as well.
Bruce Brown is still on their roster.
Bruce Brown,
been wearing that nice cowboy outfit on the bench.
Exactly. But it's like those guys, like, yeah, you're going to lose them eventually, so you're still not going to be a great team. But those core guys of Grady, even Ochai has played really well for them. So, like, their core is going to be really fun to watch soon, or in the coming years. Like, they're going to be really competitive.
For sure. East definitely in good hands in the next few years with all these young up-and-coming teams. Final game, Western Conference. The San Antonio Spurs win again without Victor Wembanyama, thanks to a crazy second half. They defeat the Utah Jazz 126-118 in a game where it was really the vets that went crazy down the stretch for the Spurs.
Harrison Barnes, man. I never would have thought, because we were watching it before, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, Utah's kind of cruising right now. Finally, they're going to lose without Wemby. And then all of a sudden, 20-point comeback later.
Yeah, we were watching this game, like, along with the other game. We were watching Pistons-Hornets, Wolves-Raptors, and then we were like, okay, we need to start recording the full podcast, which you can check that out later. And then we're all right, the Jazz have a comfortable enough lead. They should be fine. Then we look later. It's like, what? The Spurs won by 8. What happened? So we were watching the fourth quarter here before we started recording to get a feel on what exactly happened. And the Spurs, they just did a great job. They just got a lot of great, easy looks right around the rim, corner threes, taking advantage of Utah turnovers in the second half. Like, it was just a great game, great team performance there by the Spurs, a game where 8 of their players scored in double figures.
I was about to say, this was like, it was very reminiscent of like Spurs basketball, at least watching that fourth quarter, the ball movement, the lockdown defense, especially, my opinion, my 2 guys that I loved watching on those highlights, Bassie and Champagny. Champagny with the active hands getting a couple steals and dishing it out. And then Bassie, 6 blocks and 9 boards. Dude, like, even without Wembanyama, they have a solid rim protector. That's perfect. Chris Paul was dishing it too. Chris Paul dishing it out to Zach Collins. Just the ball movement, everything looked. It was very reminiscent of the Spurs of old. Stephon Castle looked athletic and fantastic. Trey Jones had great finishes. Like, I don't know. Like, this Spurs team, obviously, we don't know how good they're going to be, especially when Wemby comes back. Like, who knows? They could always just rattle off a bunch of wins, but come to playing time, playoff time, whatever you want to say, I think they might give some teams some trouble.
Yeah, they might make it in there. I'm still not sure if it's exactly in their best interest to be.
I don't think so either.
I'm not liking this because this is the thing. I'm a little worried here that, I mean, obviously they have other good young prospects here, so that it's kind of different, but I'm a little worried that it's going to turn out kind of like early LeBron years in Cleveland, where the second year, or, LeBron the first couple of years with Cleveland, they missed the playoffs, but they were right in the mix of things. So they missed the playoffs, but they didn't get a good enough draft pick to acquire any young talent to pair alongside LeBron. And then by the time that you're good, those Cavs teams, you're next best players are Mo Williams and old Ilgauskas and stuff like that. But Spurs, obviously you have like Stephon Castle, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell, who are solid. I'm just not sure if I'm sold on any of those guys being the number 2 guy in the Spurs future with Wemby. But so far, I mean, I'll be honest, I think Stephon Castle is the most impressive of their young prospects to me so far, at least this early.
I was about to say, Stephon Castle looks fantastic. He is learning exactly what we wanted to from Chris Paul. He is playmaking. He is as athletic as they come. He is throwing down some monster jams. His confidence is through the roof. Like, he is just playing ball, and it is lovely to see. Personally, I think Devin Vassell can be that kind of second guy, but again, really don't know, especially this season yet.
Yeah, just hard to tell so far. But either way, 500 for the San Antonio Spurs. So getting some big victories there. But there's a look at all 4 games from last night. Not a whole lot of games, but certainly a lot of action. So now let's get into the MVP of the night. And look, Joey and I, we were struggling with trying to figure out who was actually going to be by the end of this.
Who was it? We were talking, it's got to be Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller went off in overtime. LaMelo fouled out and carried them to a huge win in overtime against the Pistons. Then Anthony Davis is going off. Is it going to be AD or Brandon Miller? Then Franz Wagner came in.
He got it. makes the game winner, and I mean gets the victory there, shocking the world against the Lakers. Had, I believe, 15 in the fourth quarter, 15 of his 37, the 11 assists, making all sorts of plays, driving to the rim, the jump shots, getting to the free throw line. So in a night where there were a ton of crazy performances, Franz Wagner gets the MVP of the night. So congratulations.
You hit a step back game winner in Crypto.com or Staples Center, downtown LA, in front of the home fans. Yeah, you're gonna get MVP of the night. I am all for it. You know, I'm the biggest LA hater out there, man. I was loving that.
Oh, this was well deserved too. The Magic have definitely been winning without Paolo. And then finally, before we get out of here, let's take a look at tonight's action. And today is Friday, which means another day of NBA Cup action with 8 games tonight. So here is the League Pass schedule. Pacers, Bucks, and Milwaukee, the main headline, want a playoff rematch from last season. And both teams kind of off to slow, inconsistent starts so far, but Milwaukee has won their last few games and getting on the right track. And, Kings Clippers down there.
I was about to say, I'm looking at that Kings and Clippers game. I work tomorrow night and I close. So as soon as I get out of work, I'll hopefully be able to catch the end of that game. But I'm very excited to see that one.
That should certainly be a fun one. And the 2 national games on ESPN, first at 7:30. The Golden State Warriors look to keep on rolling against the injury-riddled Pelicans. And Brandon Ingram questionable to return for this one. So hopefully they can get some of their players back to pair alongside Elfrid Payton.
Oh, my gosh.
Who is now back to being a starting point guard in the league. But Warriors look to keep on rolling. In the NBA Cup, too, looking for their – I believe their 3rd straight win in the NBA Cup. And then the nightcap, the Dallas Mavericks and Denver Nuggets. This should be a fun one. Unfortunately, no Luka for the Mavericks. Still questionable for Jokic for the Nuggets. So we'll see. We'll see who ends up playing in this one. But either way, both teams could certainly use that victory.
For sure. Those are going to be some good games. I know for the Pels, we said it on the podcast. We talked a lot about the Western Conference today. Go check it out. But the Pels are going to be coming back, hopefully healthier in the next week or so. And for that last game, wow. They really need Jamal Murray to step up. And MPJ, which they did last time, I will say.
Yeah, and Mavericks as well. We talked about them as well. They're kind of 2 teams, the Mavericks and Nuggets, in similar places right now. So that should certainly be a fun game. Joey, you got anything else before we get out of here?
I don't think so. What a night of basketball, and it's been fantastic to be here for Monday's podcast, Thursday's podcast, and the recaps, man. It's been great.
Now a month into the season. Definitely been a fun month so far. Well, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.